Introduction to Time Traveler. Mr. Zheng, what can I do to help you? Don't be afraid of what I'm going to say next. Please speak. I had a dream. I dreamed that I was the greatest scientist of the 21st century. The writer of time and sequence. The regulator of the shattered world. Puff. What are you laughing at? I remembered something happy. You keep going. You keep going. TSK. I also dreamed that many foreign women were pursuing me at the same time. She. You're still laughing. I've been holding you for a long time. Mr. Zheng, I have received strict training. No matter how funny it is, I won't laugh. Unless you can't help it, hahaha. Preface, 0. Origin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the gray and white hall, the Mobius ring, composed of paradoxical matter, is suspended above the main hall. The viscous and muddy material drips down with the flow of the ring, but the spilled fluid seems unaffected by gravity, constantly moving around the ring like a planet, until it merges with it again. This main hall is very spacious, except for the ring that occupies most of the space. There is only one chair, one table, and an unknown capsule compartment left. It can be seen that the owner of this hall has a bad taste. After all, few normal people would paint the room and even the furniture pale. At least the pure white coat on his body can also prove this inference with certainty. However, the pure white room did not hinder his movement. One day, you will understand me and become mine. The gray-white gloves were firmly pressed against the glass window of the capsule compartment, and through this transparent glass, a young man with messy hair on his head was peacefully sleeping inside. Dong! At a certain moment, the floating Mobius ring in mid-air emitted a ringing sound, and with this resounding sound, a golden clock phantom appeared behind the ring. If everything goes smoothly. You would also say this sentence. The hands on the clock, after pausing for a few seconds with the sound of the bell, began to move again, but the scene was truly incomprehensible. It is reversing, with the ring together. It's time. Goodbye, Zheng Shua. The next second, the originally large capsule compartment disappeared without a trace in an instant, leaving only the palm-wearing gray-white gloves hanging stiff in mid-air, unable to fall for a long time. 1. Unlucky teenagers and anti-human robots. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ah. A figure in a white coat is dancing and falling at a high speed in the sky over a forest on the Shinchi continent. If there is no accident, he will soon become an anime paper man. Help, help, help. Help. Of course, following the normal storyline, if there were no accidents, there would be one. A fast and incalculable blue flash flew out of his pocket, easily supporting him, preventing him from becoming a paper man while slowly descending at a certain speed. After a period of time, the blue light, like a brick, suspended at a height of about 1 meter from the ground. This height is probably not enough to fall to death, right? Hey! We're saved! The young man cheered in surprise, and then as if in response to the boy's cheers, the mechanical body stopped the suspension engine and crashed into the embrace of the planet's land with the young man. Bang! With the splashing of dust on the ground, the young man still couldn't escape the ending of falling to the ground, and the blue light pressed under his body emitted emotionless words at this moment. We have helped the administrator escape the danger of falling and death, and Huanyu Technology's mechanical assistant is dedicated to serving you. At this moment, facing the earth and smelling the fragrance of the soil, the young man drifted through his mind for countless reasons before weakly answering. So, do I still want to thank you for saving me? Please don't do this. Helping administrators is our mechanical body's mission. The boy struggled to get up, and the veins on his head gradually appeared as the cold voice of the mechanical body dissipated. Why not just make a soft landing directly? I have confirmed that the administrator will not be weak enough to die from falling from a height of 1 meter. It is obvious that this mechanical body has advanced functions to regulate human emotions through language. I'm asking why you didn't land directly on the ground. Appropriate pain can alleviate the administrator's sense of joy caused by narrowly escaping death. Why relieve the joy? The frantic cries echoed through the sky, and as he looked around the lush green forest, he suddenly fell silent. His eyes were empty, pondering something until the mechanical body impatiently collided with him, before he suddenly woke up. He has lost his memory. Or rather, all that remained in his mind were the 21st century entertainment materials that he had been interested in, and all the other memories before the high-altitude crash were lost. Stop. I'll have to deal with this account with you later. First, answer me an important question. As a mechanical assistant, do you have any programs that can help people restore their memory? The young man looked bewildered. Why can amnesia be partially executed? Did he store those entertainment materials in his brain system disk? But who would stuff this kind of thing into the system disk? It seems that the administrator has lost memory, so do I need to reintroduce our mechanical assistant to you? Listening to the mechanical body's answers, the veins on the boy's head appeared again, but as the mechanical body said, his understanding of it may only be limited to being able to fly, be able to speak, and be anti-human. Okay, then let's talk about what you can do for a living. After all, it seems like you're the only useful thing left around me. Although he didn't want to admit it, facing this unknown environment, only the warm mechanical body beside him could give him a hint of warmth. So, the lukewarm robot voice slowly began to introduce itself. We are a mechanical assistant, a highly portable demand supply station developed by Huanyu Technology Company. We not only store all the knowledge created by humans from their appearance to the time administrators travel, but also our body is made of self-plastic metal, which can deform to a certain extent. Based on the above conditions, we can meet most of the needs of administrators to a certain extent. The messy black hair swayed due to the fall, and the young man stared at the suspended brick with a skeptical expression. Why did this thing seem to have the same visual sensation as stuffing the transformer's flame into a metal brick? Do you have any way to directly restore my memory? The originally tense expression was rarely relaxed, and it seems that there is not too much to spare. After all, there is a Transformers who works as his bodyguard and secretary. So, isn't restoring memory like sprinkling water? I'm sorry, according to the principle of preventing intellectual property crises. Mechanical bodies cannot directly store any human memory, so I cannot directly restore your memory through brain-machine links. The straightforward answer from the mechanical body made the young man feel hopeless about survival. What caused him to have the illusion that the anti-human mechanical body is omnipotent? The originally upright body suddenly fell backwards, collapsing to the ground, constantly muttering about Baba, Baba, and Baba. However, I can provide you with a few solutions to help you recover your memory faster. As the mechanical body gasped for breath, he stood up like a carp, and his already stagnant mood was stirred up by several towering waves. An indescribable evil thought jumped out of his heart. After I finish listening to the advice, I will ban you. What suggestions? Let's hear them. As soon as the eager response was received, the mechanical body immediately suspended in front of the boy. After emitting an unexpected sound effect full of the Transformer's flavor, the bricks turned into boxes, evenly expanding outward. A few seconds later, a high-tech blue screen appeared in it, followed by a melodious music coming out from it. As the music played, a picture began to appear on the screen. A pink hairdryer pig wearing a doctoral hat holding a teaching whip, pointing to the blackboard with the words, "In the World Classroom." A method to restore memory written on it at Shuyuan www.jiaoshuyuan.com. Stay calm, stay calm, stay calm. The young man's heart constantly hinted at himself, but recalling the various communications with the mechanical body just now, his already dangerous blood pressure involuntarily rose again. The little pig on the screen tapped the blackboard with a teaching whip a few times, and the words on the blackboard changed to 1. Oral medication. Tianma Xingnao capsule, Anshan Buneo Yi. In an instant, a fist suddenly pierced through the screen, shattering the pink hairdryer pig. The white fist trembled violently, silently announcing the owner's anger, but unfortunately, it seemed that the screen was not real. And the little pig on the screen, with her only remaining hand holding the teaching whip, struck the blackboard with a sense of mission, and the words on the blackboard changed to: secondly, light diet. Moderate supplementation of zinc in the body. It seems even more regrettable that damaging the screen will not cause the animation to pause. So the young man's anger rose from his heart, and his evil intent grew on the edge of his courage. Without any regard for martial arts, he grabbed the high-tech border with both hands and threw it into the air with all his strength, like throwing a shot put. But this mechanical body is not an ordinary machine. It has all been blocked out, only to see it suspend in the air with a beautiful damping force, and then draw a perfect curve of Fibonacci, steadily floating in front of the young man, not much but not much, just the distance before being thrown out. The boy's constantly tense brain burned out upon seeing this situation, and his face also showed a mischievous smile, with terrifying laughter in his mouth. He. If this is really human, he would rather escape to hell. At least in hell he doesn't have to see this mechanical body that torments humans with all kinds of wisdom. 2. This plot is too clich. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 3. Remembering. Viewing previously saved photos or videos. As the words on the blackboard changed again, the young man suddenly became agitated and his previously insane expression returned to normal. He stared closely at the passage and realized that the way to survive was within it. I'll give you another chance. If there happens to be a recording stored in your system about before the time travel, then I'll forgive everything you did before. Otherwise, you'll just wait for me to use it to build a pit. The threatening sound of gritting his teeth came from his mouth, and his veins-filled hands were shaking the mechanical body, indicating that his patience had reached its limit. Retrieve the number of self-stored videos. 1. Number of videos that meet the administrator's requirements. 1. Do you want to play them? Yes. Play it for me now. The only remaining video was actually exactly what he needed. It was like dozing off and giving a pillow. He suddenly felt that his life was not that bad, and his face was filled with joy as if he had forgotten that the human who had just fallen into the torment of artificial AI was himself. Playing. Backup plan. The scene on the screen changed from an animated film to a video, and in the bright laboratory, there was a person wearing a white coat. The man with messy black hair sat on a chair, and the wall behind him was inlaid with materials made of unknown materials. The Mobius ring flows over time. It's strange that the boy hasn't seen his face since he fell, but his intuition tells him that this man is him. Hello. Is it me? Forget it, let's not dwell on this. If Xiaoqi plays this video, it means you. Or me. Forget it, let's use you. I have already lost my memory due to time travel. Originally, this anti-human robot was called Xiaoqi, so it's quite like mine high-tech phones. The young man was full of confusion, and after losing all the memories of the 22nd century, he could only understand them through the knowledge contained in those 21st century entertainment materials. But you still have Xiaoqi accompanying you, so the situation is not too bad. You can fully trust Xiaoqi. She possesses unimaginable power that is enough to protect you from surviving in a different world and returning to your original world. If you still want to return to this world, then listen carefully to what I'm saying next. It's about whether you can travel back again. The young man swallowed his saliva with a solemn expression. He didn't want to be trapped in an unknown place and die alone. First of all, your name is Zheng, a human who lived in the year 2122 of the blue star flame. This is your anchor point in time and space. When you travel back, you need to silently recite in your mind, then find and go to the direction that gives you the strongest sense of familiarity. Zheng Shua swallowed his saliva again and couldn't help but worry, what would happen if he remembered the wrong anchor or found the wrong direction. The man on the screen seemed to have anticipated his thoughts and replied solemnly, you wouldn't want to know. For example, if you accidentally traveled to World War II and were transported directly to the tank tracks due to time and space correction, then crushed into flesh and mud, and finally turned into nourishment for the Blue Star Mother. Zheng Shua suddenly felt that the other world was also quite good, with orc women, legal lowly, and a possibility of polygamy. Why take the risk of traveling back? But the man seemed to have a spiritual perspective, and his next sentence dispelled Zheng Shua's thoughts. Don't fantasize about everything in a different world, because we can't predict the situation in another world before crossing. When you hear this prompt, you should be vigilant about your surroundings. A different world is not safe, nor is it as beautiful as recorded in your entertainment records. If you are really lucky enough to have some entertainment materials remaining in your brain. The neck, which had already stood tall with cold hair, shrank again. Zheng Shua instinctively suspected that the tree swaying in the wind next to him might be a tree spirit, and would suddenly give him an Asian bundle when he was not paying attention. Maybe there's some Nantong goblin lurking in the dark grass ahead, ready to pour him sleeping black tea and fiercely pout his 114,514 day-long teeth. Thinking of this, Zheng Shua suddenly covered his buttocks tightly and nervously looked around. And another reason is that someone is waiting for you to go back. There are also people in that world who are concerned about you, worried about you. Remember, even if you cannot achieve your goals, you must find a way to go back. The man in the video couldn't observe Zheng Shua's movements. He still stared closely at Zheng Shua, his black pupils firmly locking his eyes through the clear blue screen. Perhaps this sentence was the most important one in his opinion. Are they my family members? Father and mother? Is it really because of amnesia? How come I have no impression at all? A puzzled expression once again appeared on Zheng Shua's face. After all, for him now, remembering his family may not be as simple as deleting the remaining 21st century entertainment materials in his mind. So why do I have to store that bunch of things in my brain system disk? And your goal in this journey to another world is to find ways to extend your lifespan in that world. What the hell? Su Fu is actually me. Finally, the most important thing is to protect those who love you and those you love. The man solemnly confessed, with two pairs of dark eyes staring at each other across the screen. Zheng Shua later realized something strange. Why did I become young after traveling through a different world? Why are my eyes filled with sadness and pain? What memories did I lose while traveling? As the video finished playing and the screen dissipated, these questions could no longer be answered by the man. However, Xiaoqi did not give him any time to daydream. It turned straight back into a brick and landed in his outstretched hand, falling down with half of his body. Hey, hey, hey. Get up on my own. I'm sorry, but we didn't expect the administrator of zhaoshuyuan.com to be as weak as a dead house in the old era. To what extent? It's clear that you're too heavy. Little Seven rarely did not fight back. It flew out of Zheng Shua's hand and turned into a box again, scanning him from top to bottom. Test results. Physical development. 16 years old, with no abnormalities in the body, and a backward overall motor system. Congratulations, Administrator. You perfectly fit the protagonist setting of De Yen high school student with no bound hands in entertainment materials. What do you know? I am a researcher. Do you understand the value of being a scientist? Xiaoqi, who had successfully used his venomous tongue, was grabbed and swayed up and down by Zheng Shua, and new doubts emerged from his mind. Before crossing over, I looked over 30, right? I'll go. Time travel earns more than 10 years of lifespan in vain shaking and swaying. Zheng Shua suddenly realized something was wrong, the surroundings were too quiet. Quietly making him furry, although there were still some faint cicadas and birds chirping just now, it seemed as if he had been devoured by some monster one by one. He suddenly remembered the so-called plot killing in the entertainment materials. When the protagonist suddenly learned something exceptionally important, he would arrange the old crisis plot in the next scene. While Zheng Shua was still pondering the triggering conditions for plot killing, the next moment, a leaf happened to fall on top of Zheng Shua's head. With the touch of fallen leaves, he suddenly fell silent like a statue, but his heart, which was pounding uncontrollably, betrayed him. Through the mirror-like smooth shell of little Seven in his hand, he could clearly observe a pair of golden pupils staring tightly at him in the shadow above the tree top. Gan Lin Yang. This plot is too clich AD, isn't it? 3. A male lecturer proficient in human nature. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiaoqi, let me apologize to my parents for my child's unfilial behavior, causing them to suffer the pain of sending someone with white hair to someone with black hair. A soft murmur came from his mouth, and Zheng Shua suddenly felt that it was also good to die like this. Losing important memories after traveling through a different world, as a human being played with by one's own phone in the palm of one's hand, after being played with in various ways, I finally regained my memory, but unfortunately encountered a top predator. This level of misfortune is so tragic that the listener is sad and the listener is in tears. We can dye your hair white after your death to avoid the situation where white-haired people give black-haired people away. It still has a familiar anti-human flavor, but this time Zheng Shua did not experience any emotional fluctuations. It seems that his cerebellar pouch has completely short-circuited. Eat me spicy bricks. But the next second, a coherent set of belly tightening, waist twisting, and dribbling, a perfect baseball pitch. Although this baseball may pose a life-threatening danger to other athletes, there is no doubt that it is the best way for Zheng Shua to escape from hell. For Zheng Shua, whether escaping from this anti-human mechanical body or from an unknown alien predator, it would be considered as escaping from hell and returning to the human world. Even better, if two hells happen to leave him due to entanglement, Zheng Shua swears that he will clear the entertainment materials and memories related to hellish jokes when he returns home, and at the same time knock on the electronic wooden fish to thank the Buddha for his protection. Of course, because of his passion for hellish jokes, it is obvious that Buddha also wished for him to go to hell, and it was 3 times. Therefore, the bricks did not fly towards the shadows as he expected, but instead firmly stuck to his hand. The strong inertia drove him to complete a few demacia in place, and then pulled him back into the embrace of Mother Earth. However, the good news is that this time his face no longer needs to suffer that cruel impact. But the bad news is that due to his imposing roar and sudden movements, the hunter lurking on the treetops also became restless. Perhaps in an instant, or in the blink of an eye, a black shadow flashed from the treetops onto Zheng Shua and firmly pressed down on his limbs. Zheng Shua must admit that he had no possibility of escaping from this creature, whether it was physical or physiologically. The afternoon sunshine passed through layers of leaves, and was reflected by the dust in the air, gently covering the delicate face and drooping golden threads of the young girl like a veil. This light was not as dazzling as it came at noon, but it was just right for Zheng Shua, allowing him to use the slightly dim light to witness such miracles. Against the backdrop of this face, the dim yellow light also became dazzling. The dust floating in front of us also becomes holy. Zheng Shua. Like Xiao Zheng Shua. Like but surprisingly, what was reflected from those perfect golden pupils was not Zheng Shua, who was firmly pressed under her, but Xiao Qi in Zheng Shua's hand. Do you mean? Zheng Shua suddenly had an idea in his heart, but of course, this idea was not very bold. So he exerted all his strength and twitched his right hand, which was gripping the mechanical body. Although he didn't know where the girl came from with her innate divine power, when Zheng Shua saw the golden pupils shaking along with his right hand, he sublimated. It's an angel. It is an angel sent by God to save his faithful followers. Sorry, Buddha, I have converted to Jesus. Zheng Shua's originally nervous face was suddenly filled with piety. At this moment, he felt that life was so beautiful, as if the humiliating young man who was subdued under the angel was someone else. And what he needs to do now is to dedicate this mechanical body from hell to the angel, Lord, escape from hell and enter heaven, and then live a shameless and restless life together. Xiaoqi. Get out of my hands and dodge this beautiful angel while attracting her attention. Please do not be influenced by the instinct of biological reproduction to make rational judgments. This is a command. Following your instructions, the administrator who thinks in the lower body. As Zheng Shua's command fell, Xiaoqi slowly drifted away from his hand, seemingly specifically to attract the girl's attention. It activated its futuristic RGB blue light and swayed in circles before her eyes. So as the black shadow flashed out of his body, the blue light also fled in an instant, and our poor Zheng Shua could finally break free from that humiliating position. What, do you think he looks quite happy about it? Of course, who wouldn't want to be pinned down by a beautiful girl with 1.6 meters of blonde hair and golden pupils? Rubbing his swollen limbs and supporting the big tree beside him, Zheng Shua looked at the blue light and the figures closely following in the forest, but his mind was filled with gratitude to God's Father.in.law for giving me a beautiful girl's wife and how many children I would have after getting married. Unfortunately, Miss Angel doesn't seem to be naturally naive. After multiple unsuccessful attempts to capture the mechanical body, she decided to capture the thief and the king first. While Zheng Shua was indulging in the fantasy of reproductive instinct, the girl suddenly appeared in front of him and slowly walked towards him. This time, Zheng Shua finally could see her in full. Whether it's the huge box carried on both the right shoulder and right hand, the short sword hanging on the back waist, or the pure black hooded cloak, all of them are telling the story of this girl not being easy to deal with. But Zheng Shua, who is an ordinary person, he's super brave. Especially when it comes to his future sexual life, how could he give up despite difficulties? Xiaoqi, take note of this torture point. As a male lecturer proficient in human nature, in 3 words, let Miss Angel and I have 12 children. As someone who has received higher education, having tasted the gall game of Blue Star for 5,000 years and the future humanity of crossing the anime world, the beauty of the therapy guide lies in him. You drop. Flower girl. Big drop, yo 11. As Zheng Shua spoke, a strange situation emerged. Like time frozen, whether it was Xiaoqi as a mechanical body or the slowly approaching angel miss, it seemed as if the pause button had been pressed. After all, whether it's this Japanese-style inflammatory language, or the like gesture and expression of the cult, it will cause an indelible spiritual shock to normal people. Moreover, the person who made this shameful behavior was Xiaoqi, the administrator, and the girl who was targeted by this behavior. After a suffocating silence, Xiaoqi floated in front of the girl, as if making an exceptionally difficult decision, and exchanged, "Hello, if you want to destroy my administrator humanely, I have no objection." No need, why don't you just leave this guy to fend for himself and follow me?" The girl's voice was not as gentle as her face, but with a cool and proud tone, like the serious saint leading the choir. What surprised Zheng Shua was not her tone that was different from his ideal, but the language she spoke, which was De Yen language. So when the girl had a great conversation with the mechanical body, there was also a humanoid sculpture standing next to her that had lost all its colors due to embarrassment. So, tie him up, feed him a few aphrodisiacs, and throw them into the big guy's tavern. I believe he will teach you how to use me with sincerity after that. So there's still this way, I'm becoming more and more fond of you, Xiaoqi. I also really like Sister Only. Compared to some foolish administrator who only knows how to think with her lower body, Sister Only is really 10,000 times better. Although he didn't understand how one person, one machine became close friends in a short period of time, and didn't understand why Xiaoqi's attitude towards others was so friendly and realistic, Zheng Shua knew that if he didn't speak up again, he would be thrown into a big bird spinning bar and compared to a muscular man. Well, anime is shy. What strange world must speak Japanese? I'm ashamed to be with him. He explained with great righteousness, but his best friend group clearly ignored him. Sister Only, did you hear anyone talking? No one is talking. Is there some cat or dog who, out of their survival instinct, barked twice to make you hear it wrong? Zheng Shua regretted it. It seemed that Miss Only was not an angel sent by God to save him, but a deadly devil sent by God to rush him to hell to trouble Satan. Let's take action then. One person, one machine spoke, surrounding Zheng Shua, who also fully demonstrated his ability as a future person. Shijiba de. People can't always be unlucky, right? Just like Zheng Shua, a child who experienced many hardships, the goddess of luck finally waved her hand at him, so he retreated and took off An Li's hood. The golden wolf ears, folded under the hood to conceal their appearance, stood upright because they lost the need for disguise, and the long golden hair casually coiled behind their heads also fell loose due to the loss of the hood's fixation. Zheng Shua. Those who are really strong are always pleasantly surprised. Give a thumbs up to the blonde and golden-eyed beast-eared girl Xiao Zheng Shua. Those who are really strong are always pleasantly surprised. Give a thumbs up to the blonde and golden-eyed beast-eared girl looking at the wolf ears and golden long hair sprouting out. Zheng Shua suddenly exclaimed, "I'll go, princess dog." It is obvious that although An Li does not know whether the meaning of dog princess is as she thought, she understands that words that can be said with that look of human disdain are definitely not good words. Let's kill it. After declaring Zheng Shua's death sentence without any warmth, her left hand pulled out a pitch-black short sword from her waist and held it in her mouth. With her right hand, she smashed down the large box she had been carrying on her back, and the antique box fell heavily on her side, stirring up dust in the sky. The box that had been smashed to the ground, after emitting a sound of gear linkage, ejected another black giant sword from above. After An Li held the handle of the large sword with both hands, Zheng Shua felt the air around him resisting him, and the splashing dust also hindered his vision. He could only vaguely see the wolf ears and young girls gradually lowering in the dust, as well as the bright golden pupils full of killing intent. Crouching trough, dog with sword. Even at this moment, Zheng Shua still didn't forget to say bad things, but it made Xiaoqi suffer because it knew that when Zheng Shua said these words, it had to take action to help him escape. Administrator, I have noticed that you have more talent than me in regulating others' emotions. That's for sure, after all, I'm your master, so Xiaoqi, save me. Zheng Shua howled, but his limbs were now frozen to the point of being unable to move due to the lock of the killing machine, leaving only his eyes trembling as he stared at An Li in useless struggle. When he found that the girl had already lowered her body to the extreme, only a sharp golden light flashed through his eyes. Gan Lin's mother, anime wronged me. 4. The Formula of Victory. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The fierce wind, accompanied by a strand of black hair, brushed past Zheng Shua's face. His body, which lacked exercise, was trembling and maintaining the iron bridge. The instigator of the wind and the cutting of black hair was tightly inserted into the heart of an unlucky old tree. The sword body embedded 7 feet into the giant tree was silently expressing the user's killing intent. Zheng Shua suddenly realized that the wolf girl named An Li seemed to really want to kill him. Fortunately, Xiaoqi did not actually turn his back on the battlefield. At this moment it was like a vine coiled around a tree, extending from Zheng Shua's spinal cord to his limbs, emitting red light that rhythmically moved with his breathing. These mechanical creations, similar to vines, became Zheng Shua's second nervous system after completing transformation and integration. The ability of this set of nerves is to narrowly dodge the sweeping giant sword in the posture of an iron plate bridge. When the administrator is subjected to life-threatening injuries, the mechanical assistant has the right to transform into a human external nerve without authorization, and control the human body through such means to avoid fatal injuries. This is the infinite wisdom of humanity. After experiencing countless blood and tears, humanity finally accepted the weakness of its own body and sought a more efficient way to control its body to avoid crisis. But at its root, it is only equivalent to upgrading the system. If the physical body as a hardware is really fragile, then every command from the external nervous system will become a poison for chronic suicide. Therefore, some users believe that this emergency evacuation measure is like drinking poison to quench thirst for the elderly and weak. However, for Zheng Shua, even if Xiaoqi's control was to fiercely spin the enemy's fear, it would be better to suffer from hemiplegia in the future than to be chopped into flesh by a heavy sword now. Boom! The giant sword once again tilted towards Zheng, but fortunately, after perfect calculation, Xiaoqi skillfully controlled him to dodge again. Perhaps it is because his body lacks exercise and is unable to perform more complex movements, or is it due to Xiaoqi's anti-human attributes? In short, although it's not very elegant for him to roll around on the ground with his head in his arms, just say he didn't dodge. So, a dramatic scene emerged. Enli used all his means to attack Zheng, but he always managed to dodge without a trace, and at the same time, his mouth, which shared the anger of both humans and gods, did not stop. Only sister, no, only empress, we need to calm down. We need to control our emotions. We need to be the masters of our emotions. We need to communicate rationally. Girls from all walks of life, it's not good to fight and kill. If anything unexpected happens and I get a scar on my face, I will be sad for a long, long time. I'll tell you, if you get even closer to me, I'll make you understand what a change in the times is. Don't come over here. It seems that gal game, which has been immersed in anime for 5,000 years, has not improved Zheng communication skills, but rather has led to a constant stream of sarcastic remarks. If there is any virtual UI projection, you can find that our wolf-eared girl Onli's anger level has exceeded the limit and overflowed from her head at this moment. So while Zheng was still talking nonsense without knowing what to say, the purpose of this duel had already become to distinguish between high and low, as well as to determine life and death. Of course, Zheng, who was being controlled to roll back and forth, was now overjoyed by his success in committing a crime, but he was also working hard to keep it from becoming a physical death. Can you hear me, Xiaoqi? His lips moved slightly, as if afraid that Onli, who was crazily attacking in front of him, would know about his conversation with Xiaoqi. In this state, the administrator can directly engage in brain conversations with me. The familiar mechanical voice emanated from Zhengshua's deep thoughts, and at the same time, Enli's giant sword was once again drawn from the tree and swung towards him. The heavy blade smashed towards the ground, and the extended ravine seemed to have been cut deep and orderly for Zhengshua's burial place. Once again, his trembling body dodged the killing move in the blink of an eye with an unsightly dagger, glutinous rice rolls with sweet bean flour. Although Zhengshua could always avoid these attacks exactly, his aching muscles warned him that if he didn't think about how to solve the angel girl's words, he would really end up half paralyzed. Can you become something like a taser gun or an electric shock machine? Sorry, I don't have this feature. Can you shoot anesthesia needles like the watch of a Grim Reaper elementary school student? Sorry, I don't have this feature. Is it enough to turn it into handcuffs? I'm sorry, I can't use this feature to satisfy the administrator's perverted tendencies. Moreover, I believe that with the strength of my materials, it's not enough to detain Miss Enli for a long time. Oh. Look at this bloodthirsty reply. Zhengshua swears. If he is fortunate enough to travel back, then he will definitely kick the researcher who designed anti-human AI with his sneakers in the butt. Why are you still thinking about perverts and hobbies now? Under the stimulation of Xiaoqi, Zhengshua couldn't hold back in the end and screamed frantically. The soft wolf ears trembled with the girl's puzzled tilt of her head. Cough cough. It's okay. You keep chopping, you keep chopping. No, what am I talking about? Stop chopping. Truce. Truce. Looking at the giant sword that was thrown down without hesitation, Zhengshua rolled and begged for mercy while holding his head. Axie, don't you have any ultimate means? But he hasn't given up hope of survival yet, maybe Xiaoqi can discharge like Pikachu. When the time comes, Enli, who has been paralyzed, will not be left to be slaughtered by him. I am fully capable of eliminating the source of danger, may I ask if it will be executed? His eyes, as black as obsidian, widened in surprise. Zhengshua stared blankly at the young girl in front of him who was still chasing him. The crazy face illuminated by the red light, the slender arms waving giant swords, her killing intent was so strong that it made people's limbs stiff and their thinking cold. But Zheng Shua never thought of harming Enli from beginning to end. He spoke heartlessly, but in his heart, he was weak and powerless. At the end of the day, he is a law-abiding and well-behaved commoner. He really can't take away someone's life. Perhaps he is just a holy mother turtle. The first thing that comes to mind after being attacked is not to fight back, but to find a place where no one is around and lick his wounds alone. Perhaps there is also the reason for Enli's full grit appearance. After a brief silence, Zheng Shua responded with a low mood to the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com. No need, it's not yet that time. Is there really no other way? If the administrator expects a peaceful solution, then I suggest that the administrator negotiate with Miss Enli seriously. After all, although your words are excessive, they are not enough to make the situation worse. Do you mean? After being prompted by Xiaoqi, Zheng Shua suddenly realized that it was impossible to ignite such a heavy killing intent with just a few words. Therefore, there must be some greater purpose, and Enli was willing to kill herself for this purpose. He suddenly recalled the friendly communication between his best friends and me during the period when he lost his color. What did you and Enli talk about? She hopes that I will remain loyal to her and help her country regain strength and prosperity. What is the reason why she wants the country to become stronger again? She hopes to help her country solve some kind of impending crisis. I seem to understand now indeed, because it stored all the knowledge generated by humans from ancient times to the present. Even a group of primitive ape humans who could only use wooden sticks could develop rapidly in a few years after receiving the loyalty of Xiaoqi. And Enli, who had just lurked in the tree, must have heard Xiaoqi's previous self-introduction. After understanding these, Zheng Shua suddenly had a bold idea in his mind that was related to human life. I have an idea. I need your cooperation in my performance. It is my honor to perform on stage with the administrator. Zheng Shua ignored the strange language in Xiaoqi's words. After all, he had already written the formula for victory. 5. This is a win-win situation with two wins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Stop and stop, Miss Enli. If what I just said has caused you any harm, then I sincerely apologize. And since you attacked me so many times from just now until now, you should also understand that before Xiaoqi's energy is depleted, you have no means to touch me, and besides, you just want Xiaoqi's permission, right? Zheng Shua frantically begged for mercy, hoping to exchange Xiaoqi's authority for hope of survival. After all, as the only one in him, logically sound, what can arouse Enli's desire is this seemingly extraordinary mechanical assistant. After hearing Zheng Shua's plea for mercy, Enli quickly stopped attacking, and her delicate face showed a bright smile again, making her smiling eyes even colder. She likes smart people because they can always guess what they want and then, under the threat of life, offer it with both hands. Moreover, all of Xiaoqi's actions now require my authorization. Even if you kill me, you will only receive a corpse and a piece of dead, ordinary metal. If you are willing to cease fire, I will give you everything you want. The pitch-black blade was thrust straight into the ground, and Enli proudly extended his hand to Zheng Shua while taking off the short sword from his mouth. This was also the first time Zheng Shua had observed her palm. Rough, covered in scars and calluses, seemingly unrelated to her perfect appearance, but forcefully stuffed into the same body. That's good, it seems that our little brother Zheng Shua is not as foolish as Xiaoqi said. Amidst Enli's hopeful expression, what landed on her palms was not the intelligent mechanical object she wanted, but someone's two palms. With heartache and regret, Zheng Shua rubbed these supposed perfect creations, as if witnessing a neon animation society that had created a month-long hegemony turn into ashes in the sea of fire. This inexplicable expression made Enli panic. She forcefully withdrew her hand and loudly rebuked Zheng Shua for his abnormal behavior. Do you think I'll let you go if I show such an expression? Today you and your strange metal must stay. But at this moment, Zheng Shuo was not afraid of her at all. He silently stared at Li and inexplicably said, "I'm not acting, I just feel that this hand shouldn't be like this." Rough hands suddenly grabbed his collar, and the ferocious golden pupils stared at him tightly. The sharp teeth that seemed to devour people stuttered in response, "I lo. E." Zheng Shuo sighed and gently raised his hand, gradually breaking apart Li's fingers. After no longer sensing Li's murderous intent that could solidify the air, he released his brain connection and collapsed to the ground. As the external nerves gradually peeled off from the skin, Xiaoqi regained its original form as a brick, but the magnificent blue light that should have been emitted was still an uncomfortable red light. "Miss Only, Xiaoqi has a self-destruct function." Zheng Shuo, who collapsed on the ground like a salted fish, spoke in the mournful red light, but his tone was no longer lively and childish as before, but rather revealed a calmness that was not in line with his age. "Moreover, the range of this explosion is very large. Based on the data given to me by Xiaoqi, if Xiaoqi self-destructs, even if you escape at full speed, you may still not be able to escape." The rough palm gently clenched, and the worst-case scenario that Li had imagined appeared. When Zheng Shuo realized that something was wrong and ignored his threats, she, who knew nothing about Xiaoqi, had no way of obtaining the authority of this strange metal. "But it's not a last resort, and I don't want to die with you either. If you just want to obtain the knowledge stored by Xiaoqi, I can give you all of it." He lightly promised, as if the knowledge that could influence the prosperity of a civilization was nothing more than a pile of waste paper to him. After all, this is a world with zero technological content. Maybe I'll go back and enjoy myself. Long ago when this silly girl rubs out the electricity for Only, she actually doesn't care about that strange metal. What she wants is the knowledge of all humanity that she heard when she lay dormant in the tree, but she doesn't like being given alms by others. But yes. The body, as limp as a salted fish, suddenly sat up, and his tone changed from mature to bouncing again. The response to Zheng Shuo's rhythmic tone was the short sword that instantly pressed against his throat. Cough cough. Calm down, calm down. He quickly waved his hand, choosing the former between saving his life and committing a crime. "What I want to say is, if I give it to you for free, doesn't it feel like giving it to you? So, why don't we do a deal instead?" Li's eyebrows furrowed. Although she wanted to stay away from this slut, she could only calm her emotions and respond out of self-respect. "What kind of transaction is it? If you say something strange again, I will use a short sword to help you peel off your little brother. When he said these words, the short sword also intentionally or unintentionally moved to Zheng Shuo's lower abdomen. Cough 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 cough. "A very serious transaction. We want to hire you as our bodyguard." Out of his eagerness to save his younger brother, Zheng Shuo gave up the opportunity to speak coquettishly, which made him feel as if he had triggered a withdrawal reaction. Upon hearing his proposal, Li showed a thoughtful expression. In her opinion, the only difficulty in serving as bodyguards for these two was to control herself from killing Zheng Shuo due to emotional excitement. Moreover, it seems that there is no other way besides threatening Zheng Shuo and engaging with him. So trading with Zheng Shuo not only gives her what she wants, but also eliminates the need to compromise her self-esteem. For her, it's a win-win situation of winning twice. So what about time? About 30 sunsets. The pitch-black short sword was also put away, and Only touched her chin. After thinking for a moment, she found that she had enough time and was fully capable of spending 30 days with this little naive ghost. So she calmly agreed. "Okay, then I'll reluctantly take care of you, who is weak, and find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com as your bodyguard. But first of all, if there's someone I can't beat, then I won't sacrifice my life to protect you. What you want?" Faced with this win-twice deal, Li could only pretend to be difficult and agree. After that, Zheng Shuo waved to Xiaoqi. "So Xiaoqi, please help me record the video." What does this mean? Only looked at Xiaoqi, who was floating beside her, and Zheng Shua, in confusion. This is an ancient ritual of agreement, where both parties extend their little thumbs, hook each other, and swing a few times. Zheng Shua saw that and Li agreed readily, so he immediately asked Xiaoqi to arrange a video recording. After all, a few words solved the original deadlock, and he could also get a beautiful girl's bodyguard for free. For him, it was a win-win situation of winning twice. Is this kind of playful ritual important to you? Of course, this is a manifestation of the called, one word, 9 tripods in my country. Faced with Li's questioning, Zheng Shua pretended to respond seriously, but he was not sure what the purpose of this unprotected agreement ceremony was. Perhaps it is due to the compliance with the formal process that led to the interest. Perhaps you want to leave a memory after traveling back. Tisk, it's really troublesome. Alright, just swing 3 times, right? No problem, even if it keeps swinging, I can accept it. I promised to spare your life, but it seems like I didn't promise not to hit you, did I? Hey. I was wrong. So, under the witness of Xiaoqi, returning to the leisurely forest, and under the glow of the sunset, this childish ritual of agreement was completed. Ties are also tied at this moment. 6. Strange World Survival Story. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At night, by the warm campfire, the two casually brought some hay and a huge leaf, which was their bed for tonight. After staring at the colorful plants resembling sweet potatoes in the fire for a long time, Zheng Shua cautiously asked Xiaoqi. Are you sure this thing can be eaten? Why do I feel unsafe? Please do not doubt the judgment made by our assistant. After molecular level composition analysis, this plant is not only non-toxic, but also contains rich starch. Ah. So this is sweet potato. Another world plus. You can think so. It is surprising that such a harmonious atmosphere should appear among them, as they communicate eagerly with each other. Oh, take a look at the girl next to you with 2 bright eyes. Alright, it seems that the answer has come out. And Miss Li, didn't you have lunch? Zheng Shua couldn't bear to watch anymore. After the two of them made an agreement, he finally didn't have to worry about Li coming to assassinate him, but where did the cold killer fan just go? Ha. Hey. Cough. This is my thirst for food, and at first glance, you haven't experienced the ravages of nature. The girl regained her senses and transformed from a foodie girl who had just stared at the colorful potatoes with dementia to an old senior who taught the survival experience of the younger generation with seriousness. So after being beaten by nature, you found so much food to eat. His slender fingers trembled as he pointed at the mushrooms and insects on the nearby stone. Although these things looked regular to the naked eye and were completely non-toxic and safe to eat, after being tested by Xiaoqi, he did not want or dare to touch those strange things. God knows how Wolf Girl managed to eat these highly poisonous things and still chased him with full energy to chop them. Is it okay for me to eat it? I've been eating it for 7 or 8 days, and there's nothing like what Xiaoqi said. Although the taste is a bit bad, why don't you give it a try? As she spoke, she picked up a white mushroom and stuffed it into her mouth. With the other hand, she also picked up another black mushroom, as if to pass it to Zheng Shua. Don't eat it. Zheng Shua quickly picked up the warm-colored potatoes that were hanging on the side and peeled off the roasted smoky black skin. Highly toxic. It can cause damage to organs. Xiaoqi on the side also issued a warning. Give me vomit, otherwise I won't want to eat grilled sweet potatoes. Speaking, Zheng Shua stuffed the colorful potatoes into Li's mouth. A sweet aroma wafted out from the colorful potatoes, and besides their color, this plant was basically the same as the sweet potatoes of Blue Star. Just spit up, bah, our young master Zheng Shua actually cares about others' safety. Feeling embarrassed, Li turned around and joked at Zheng Shua. Oh, some people even say that they have been beaten by nature and have rich experience, but don't they still rely on their strong physique to eat recklessly? And Zheng Shuo also retorted, unwilling to be outdone. The two of them glared angrily at each other, and the flames of war were imminent. Squeak. The crisp sound of the joints transmitted clearly into Zheng Shuo's ears. Cough, eat colorful potatoes. After hearing the crisp sound of bullets loading, Zheng Shuo quickly tried to please and stuffed the peeled sweet potato into Enli's hand, then picked it out by the fire. Humph, you're quite sensible. Like a victorious lioness vying for status, Enli proudly ate the colorful sweet potato offered by Zheng Shuo. A warm and fragrant texture with a strong sweetness. This was the best food she had ever eaten since she fled. Hot, 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 so how did you discover me? The colorful potatoes, whose outer skin was baked pitch black, flew back and forth between his hands. While tossing the colorful potatoes, Zheng Shuo did not forget to ask Enli a completely unanswered answer. Enli, who was swallowing the colorful potatoes in her mouth, didn't seem to want to answer him. Perhaps for her, the importance of the food in her hands was higher than that of this frail young man. After swallowing the food haphazardly in her mouth, she gave by Zheng Shuo a frivolous sneer and said, I think you should have more confidence in your voice, after all, it took me a lot of time to come all the way here. So I'm curious how you got up there. Maybe you don't believe it, I crossed over from another world, although I don't know why the destination was high altitude. And I also lost most of the memories before my travels, leaving only some useless entertainment materials in my mind. Traversing another world. I thought you were one of those superior people on the continent of the main family. Humph, if you had told me earlier that you were not a member of the main family, maybe I would have been more gentle with you. The colorful potatoes with only a smoky black skin were casually thrown away, and a teasing smile appeared on her face. Her hands, dyed black, also rubbed against Zheng Shuo's white coat. The originally plain white hem suddenly added a few black paw marks. Watching Enli's familiar movements, Zheng Shuo looked helpless and said, Hey, white clothes are difficult to wash. What's the matter? After all, staying in this wilderness for a long time will naturally turn dark. Why don't I make a disguise for you in advance? It looks much more pleasing to the eyes of those main dependents now. Please, you've only been wandering outside for 7 or 8 days. Don't pretend to be weathered, and is that what you said true? About the main family's mainland? No, it's the phrase, be gentle with me. Zheng Shuo asked Enli seriously, and Enli responded with a surprised look. Do you have any misconceptions about your own ability to ridicule? Gone, is that my problem? It's all this guy's fault. Yanhei's fingers angrily pointed at Xiaoqi, who was floating in mid-air eating melons. Okay, he was very grateful that Xiaoqi saved his life, but to be honest, if it weren't for the good head of this anti-human robot, his language and emotional regulation ability would definitely not be so strong. Alright, you look good, but unfortunately you have a mouth. After casually replying, Enli easily snatched a handful of the colorful potatoes that Zheng Shuo had just peeled. Hey! Can't you peel it yourself? There's still so much over there. There was no way, but he couldn't fight or drive away. Zheng Shuo could only protest with an unhappy expression on his face. But to his surprise, Enli suddenly handed the stolen colorful potatoes to his mouth, squinting her eyes and smiling at him, saying, Come on, open your mouth, ah. Zheng Shuo suddenly panicked. Well, he has lost most of his life's memories and returned to his youthful age. He can be said to be a pure virgin. You, what are you doing? The shy face suddenly turned red, and even questioning became devoid of authority. Don't you want to eat? Then I'll take it back. Omni looked at him playfully, and suddenly felt that it was quite interesting, just like taming her own pet. I'm not rare. The hands, stained with the smoky black skin, hurriedly reached out and pushed the colorful potato back. Although he said no and his hands also said no, his eyes were still very honest as he stared at the colorful potato in Enli's hand. I just showed that I really like it. The nearby colorful potato was taken back by Enli, and it felt quite good to tease others for the first time, especially Zheng Shua, who used to have sharp teeth and sharp mouth, but now appears flustered and unclear due to his intimacy. It's arrogant and delicate. Xiao Qi, who was playing soy sauce, suddenly interjected. What is arrogance and coquettishness? Ah. Shut up. If Enli finds out that he is a proud and delicate person, then life will come to an end, right? Since that's the case, let's make a loud noise to cover it up. The sudden shout startled Enli, but was she even more flustered than before? Humph, she felt like she could take some time to have a deeper conversation with Xiao Qi about some interesting things. Cough cough, so where are we now? What is the Lord's land? And why do you speak so loudly? What's wrong with your wolf ears? Zheng Shua suddenly asked seriously about the world, as if the person who had just shouted was another person. Humph, why should I answer you? Because you ate the roasted colorful potatoes I peeled. I don't know if you have heard the old saying, eat people with a soft mouth, hold people with short hands. But that was what I got with my skills. Zheng Shua, who was already constantly shrinking, now looked at Enli with a helpless expression as he devoured his colorful potatoes with relish. This feeling of powerlessness was really unbearable. Damn it, didn't he bring any high-tech props before traveling? If it's not portable, can't it be packed in a 4-dimensional treasure bag like Blue Fatty? Let's exchange information then. With this strategy in mind, he can only try an equivalent exchange, hoping that Enli has enough curiosity about him. I don't care, whether it's your world or the purpose you traveled through, it doesn't matter to me. Enli casually threw away the colorful potato peel and answered Zheng Shua's proposal with a gentle tone. Although her face wore a smile, it once again appeared particularly cold. I have already obtained what I want, and I won't be curious about the world of the little lamb. Zheng Shua stared straight at her in a daze. Still so intimate, he used his hem as a hand towel, looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan. Calm, but after wiping his hands this time, he slowly got up and pinched his chin, driving his face towards her. Too close, Zheng Shua's eyes were so close that only her golden pupils were left. He struggled to get up, wanting to stay away from this crazy woman. But Enli had already recognized his intention, and her other hand gently pressed Zheng Shua's shoulder, slowly pushing him back. Although the process was slow, it was irresistible. Until Zheng Shua was pushed to the ground, his eyes were only filled with panic, and his accelerating heartbeat reminded him that he could not predict the actions of this crazy woman. Well, these little eyes are really beautiful. I really want to dissect them and make them my collection. Stop playing, it's not fun at all. Lying on the ground, Zheng Shua tried to twist his body. Alright, he gave up. He, who was pressed on the ground by Enli, had no chance to break free. Moreover, after feeling his struggle, Enli's smile became even brighter, and this brightness made him feel that the situation was even more dangerous. Do you know that you are too weak, so I won't be curious about your goals at all? Even if you want to do something bad, it's okay because I will stop you. Our agreement is that I will protect you and not harm you for a month. But have you ever considered it? I can completely lock you up, as long as I ensure that you don't get hurt or die for a month. Black pupils trembling with fear stared at her, and Zheng Shua suddenly felt that this crazy woman might really do this. I have believed in you unconditionally since we met because I am strong enough. And you, why do you believe in me? Kind little lamb, I am a wolf, cunning wolf. The beautiful wolf, after devouring the food offered by the lamb, revealed her sharpened fangs. 7. She's 98 years old, I can't play with her. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Why don't you let go of your humble goal and become loyal to me? When my pet, as the book says, is completely loyal to me and will never betray me. Confused eyes stared at Zheng Shuo, and the hand that was originally holding his chin turned to brush his messy black hair, which was slightly covering his eyes due to falling. Li spoke in a clever tone and said something that Zheng Shuo thought was not good. I suddenly feel like you don't look like a princess dog. Zheng Shuo, who was teased, suddenly said something inexplicable. The originally charming and alluring atmosphere suddenly became a bit cold, and his once gentle and charming face suddenly became cold. But Zheng Shuo didn't care about the gloomy atmosphere and the cold face in front of him. He muttered nonsense to himself. It seemed that he felt that his current situation was not dangerous enough. You see, Princess Dog wouldn't take the initiative to attack like this, and besides, your upper circumference must be one size larger than hers. Well, Zheng Shuo, who was pinned down on the ground, is indeed qualified to say such words. After all, their bodies cannot be said to be intertwined, they can only be said to be inseparable. Besides, you're only 1.6 meters tall, right? Can you please save me some face? Do I have to pick you up when I introduce you to others? Besides, it's a bit unreasonable to take someone as a pet, whether it's in terms of ethics or ethics. TSK. Your country wouldn't have such abnormal customs, would it? Wow, it's not like the book you're reading is some weird book, right? You don't look big either. This kind of punishment is a bit. Boom. A fist-sized pit suddenly appeared next to his face, digging a foot deep enough to show how angry the person who created this pit was. Goo. Zheng Shuo swallowed his saliva and suddenly realized that Miss Wolf had sat up without realizing it, and her just cold face suddenly became bright again. He feels like he's going to suffer. The rough waters fishing method taught by Galgame is completely useless. I just suffered a loss from the two-spined salamander. Why did I repeat the same mistake? No, I have to say something, otherwise this deep pit will soon become my eternal home. Ha, ha, ha. Stay calm. Stay calm. A gentleman will speak without action. Okay. You're great. Then I'll just speak up. Hey, hey, hey. Don't come over with your face. Wait, it's my mistake. Can you give me another chance to be a pet? It's too late, go to hell and repent to yourself. Miss Wolf fiercely bit Zheng Shuo's forearm, which had been exposed outside his coat due to being hastily blocked, and angrily exerted some strength. Ah! Don't use your mouth. Xiaoqi, help me. After testing, the administrator was found to be in no life-threatening condition. In the analysis of behavior roles, 15% were prey and predator, and 85% were haughty ghosts and haughty ghosts. Hey. Zheng Shuo looked at Omni inexplicably, while Omni turned his head hard and stared at Xiaoqi suspended in mid-air, his eyes being kind and amiable. Xiaoqi suddenly realized something and flew straight into the sky without any hesitation. Huanyu technology is dedicated to serving you. Our machine has reached the scheduled charging time. Please allow the administrator to charge it themselves. The remaining words gradually became less clear as it passed away. However, the good news was that after being disturbed by Xiaoqi, Li finally breathed a sigh of relief, and Zheng Shuo burst into tears. At least he managed to escape the fate of amputation. Unexpectedly, Li stared at him again, revealing an indescribable danger in her golden pupils. Forget about what happened just now. Hey. You're right. The little one can't remember what happened just now. The wound on his hand was bitten by the little one while sleeping. The petite figure stood up from him and sat back in its original position, with a dignified and elegant posture, completely in the style of a lady from a wealthy family. If nothing had happened earlier. What do you want to ask me, Lord of the Continent, wolf ears, big flame language, Zheng Shuo used all his strength to nod. Even if Li told him some false information, it was better than the big crisis just now. Tisk, it's really troublesome. Then I'll come one by one. Firstly, we are located in the southern forest of the abandoned continent, and the main family has explored that there are only 2 continents in this world. Yes, you heard it right, there are only 2 continents, and the land only occupies 29% of this planet, with the remaining 71% being seawater. It is said in ancient books that there used to be 7 continents, but some people have questioned it. After all, according to common sense, there is no such great power that can cause the other 5 continents to sink under the tide. Let's have fun listening to it. Speaking of which, those noble lords even feel that the continent under their feet, which accounts for 20% of the size of this planet, was created by their gods. It's ridiculous. God. Ming. Yeah, gods, a bunch of elements in control, selfless and universal. Non-human, the originally calm face showed a resentful expression in an instant, and then returned to tranquility. Facial expressions can calm down, but emotions cannot be concealed. God loves people, but only does not love God and abandon people. This is the origin of the name, God abandoned the continent. The arrogant family members conducted various experiments here. Worship, reading the gospel, and even the great sacrifice. In the end, they looked at us with disdain, saying that the land under our feet was full of filth and impurity, declaring us sinners abandoned by the gods. When it comes to sinners, I have to say that we are different. She calmly lifted her cloak, revealing her golden tail hanging behind her, and elegantly extended it in front of her, hooking it at Zheng Shuo. And Zheng Shuo also reached out and touched the tip of his tail, which was soft and a bit prickly. When he wanted to go further, his hand was slapped by Enli. Be calm, I'm giving you a lecture. Good teacher Enli. The golden pupils, shining with the reflection of the firelight, glared at him fiercely. This playful and smiling expression was really impressive. Fortunately, I had never encountered such a person before, otherwise I would have died of a heart attack due to my impatience. Let me ask you, what do you think I look like? I see you look like a 160 centimeters golden-haired, poor breasts, proud and delicate beast ear, long-tailed wolf lowly. Squeak. Still with the clear sound of joint movements, it seems that a wolf teacher has initiated an octagonal cage duel invitation against his mischievous student. Oh, perhaps there was also a sound of Enli's rationality collapsing in that creaking sound. Like a wolf. Like a wolf. Like a wolf. Zheng Shuo, who received the duel invitation, suddenly nodded wildly like an air hammer. It was embarrassing to say that he had died of being clever and trembling. It's important to have a small life. As you think, we are evolved from wolves. Enli took a deep breath, calmed down her emotions, and then released a heavy bomb. Clam. Although she initially regretted not strangling this slut, now seeing Zheng Shuo's stunned expression, it's not bad. Although the setting of Otherworld Beast Ear Mother evolved from beasts is reasonable, how do you actually know about evolution? That was a long time ago. Several of our relatives fell in love with our ancestors after coming over, and one of them happened to be scientist. After listening, Zheng Shuo looked up and down at Enli, and had to say that he seemed to understand why those scientists who came from afar came to be abandoned by the gods. TNND, orc control, right. But when he caught a glimpse of the large box next to Enli, which was about the same height as himself, he became even more puzzled. With science, shouldn't we have already entered the era of American living? Why are we still using cold weapons? Don't you have a gun? It's a long-range weapon similar to a bow, arrow, or spear, a stick that fires and shoots something. Are you talking about firearms? That scientist brought a few over, but it's too difficult for us to use, and we don't need them either. As she spoke, she picked up a stone casually and clenched her fist, causing the gravel to burst out from between her fingers. It broke easily when touched, it's not as sturdy as my bed yet. Ha. Zheng Shuo, who had originally jumped off, suddenly became obedient. He stared blankly at Enli's fist, feeling flustered inside. Isn't this a werewolf? This is a humanoid Tyrannosaurus Rex, right? Why did I provoke such a presence, gone? Is it still possible to unilaterally breach the contract and run away now? And don't they have a war? Otherwise, why do firearms only stay on firearms? Have you never engaged in war with the main family members? War. Why war? The main family members don't look up to everything on our land, and we also look down on their way of life under the gods for a long time. However, there have been wars before, which were mediated by their gods, and the war was only once. Okay. So you are called sinners by the Lord's family because you evolved from other animals. Well, not all abandoned people have ears and tails like me. About a quarter of people don't exhibit this kind of behavior, and their physique is more frail than yours, but they are still slightly stronger than yours. So the remaining 3/4 are all weird women like you. Anli, who was calm all over her face, suddenly chuckled lightly. Without hesitation, she reached out and grabbed Zheng Shua's right hand, slowly gripping it while asking him, "Who do you think is a monster girl?" Me. It's me. It's me. Don't pinch it. It's about to break, it's about to break. Humph, I'm a special kind of person. Other people may be much stronger than you, but they're definitely not as strong as me. After hearing his sincere plea for mercy, Anli gently shook off his hand. Although she looked angry, she still replied to his question seriously, while Zheng Shua touched his fifth girl with a regretful expression on her face. Fortunately, I didn't make a big mistake. But he still can't quite accept this situation. Orcs are evolved from animals, and they know it themselves. Is this too cult, and there are even gods in this world? Do people who believe in gods even invent firearms? Do you have anything now that can boil water and exhale gas, causing it to move? Are you talking about a steam engine? Gone. It's more heretical. Even the name is the same. What's wrong? Zheng Shua scratched his head. How does this foreign world feel that it doesn't match the entertainment materials in his mind? What a ghost. The industrial revolution of orcs in the other world. Am I being tied up in the free country to take pleasure drugs and drink, and this orc from another world actually speaks the language of Great Flame, which completely violates the third law of another world, right? Okay, let's talk about the steam engine later. What's your language like? To be honest, I'm not sure why our languages are interchangeable. What we have been talking about since ancient times is Dayan language, but on the mainland side of the main family, it's a different language. Forget it, it's so cult that I don't want to say anything anymore, and the language of the other world is actually not unified. Is this strange? For us, your side is also considered a different world. Is the language on your planet unified? It seems quite reasonable too. Zheng Shua helped his forehead, and suddenly he felt that it was the main family who had created a spiritual ascension or something, so he wouldn't think anything strange anymore. So what does the Lord's family say? Listen to them themselves, it seems like they call it, hard grace. Oh, it's hard grace. English. Oh. Bull batch. Zheng Shua retracted his previous thoughts, and now he only feels tired. Gone, there really is you in a different world. What did Grice say? Hello. Amnesia cannot completely eliminate this kind of thing, can it? This is not some easily visible color chart. That's what ye worked hard to learn by memorizing vocabulary. Alas, I can only take one step at a time and watch one step at a time. I hope I don't have to go to the main family next. I can just find something here to hand over the task, right? By the way, Xiaoqi should have a translation system, right? Has this product not told me how to travel yet? What's wrong? Bright golden pupils secretly scrutinized Zheng Shua's wild thoughts, and it must be said that such people with yellow skin and black eyes are also rare among the main family members, aren't they? at least she didn't see it when she came to trade last time. And his white clothes, how could they smell so fragrant? They weren't as plain as Shen-Chi, nor did they have the unpleasant smell of candles like the main family. Ah, it's nothing, I'm just having wild thoughts, so why don't you go to bed so late? After being disturbed by Onli, Zheng Shua suddenly woke up and looked up at Onli. The campfire, playing with a crackling sound, was rolled back and forth by the evening wind. A dim yellow line was drawn at the end of the flame, weaving the fictional wings for the young girl. The dazzling sparks that occasionally floated up reflected the girl like an angel wandering in the mortal world. For a moment, Zheng Shua looked a bit confused. Sleeping. Aren't you afraid of any danger at night? The girl playfully stared at him. It seemed that the young man really liked his skin. Cough, that makes sense. How about we take turns guarding the night? No need, I have a way for us to sleep together. What to do? The girl rushed towards the young man and interrupted his next conversation at www.zhaozuiyuan.com. However, this time she did not suppress him, but instead pulled him to lie beside her. The two looked at each other, and the young man's face immediately turned red. Sleep with me, and we can sleep together. Don't joke with words, what if there is really danger? Don't worry, there are no animals in this forest who dare to provoke me. Then I'll go sleep next to it. The boy wanted to get up, but he never expected the girl to hold his hand tightly, but the two of them got closer. The golden pupils teased him, and the boy felt like he was about to lose control. You like me, right? Don't rush to deny it, I'm also quite interested in you. That's the truth. I just want to see when you can't resist saying it yourself. But there's no such thing as love at first sight. I'm just curious. What do you dare to do tonight? Be careful not to break your entire body due to my resistance. Looking down at the young man obediently and rigidly, lying beside him like a corpse, the girl suddenly became infuriated. It's really useless. Hug me. Ah. Oh. The soft touch came from his arms, and the boy instinctively hugged him even tighter, as if worried about something running away from him. The girl smiled, her smile genuine. Only, what are you really thinking? It's nothing, I'm just happy to find you, an unwanted child. Sleep. The night breeze dissipated, the fireworks subsided, and their breath gradually calmed down. Under the witness of the dazzling stars, the homeless girl, holding her own stray dog with nowhere to go, fell into a sweet dream. 8. Rebroadcast. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, the warm sun melted the clear mist in the forest, extinguished the campfire, leaving only a few ashes drifting with the wind. The fire seemed to have been extinguished for some time. A bright light flashed through the blue sky, descending silently to the campfire, gazing curiously at the two people huddled together. Last night, I didn't sleep soundly, at least for Zheng Shua. The cold at dawn made him hold on to the blanket in his arms tightly. For Onli, it was also uncomfortable. Her physique was strong enough to withstand the coldness of the night, but the occasional friction made her suspect that she was being rubbed around by some big dog. You two are really elegant. Shao-Chi let out an emotionless voice, which startled the two of them. When Zheng Shua found himself holding a wolf girl in his arms, his behavior was very special. He quickly stiffened his body, closed his eyes, and pretended to sleep. But how could this clumsy trick deceive Onli? What are you pretending to be? Get up. Looking at Zheng Shua's strategy of dealing with mental retardation, Onli pushed his hand. It must be said that this enthusiastic embrace was no less than that of the Bone King's embrace of killing his sister. Under Onli's pushing and shoving, Zheng Shua seemed to be disturbed. He suddenly opened his eyes, pretended to know nothing, and quietly let go of her. Then he stood up and pretended nothing had happened, looking around and asking. Ah. What happened? Still pretending for me, right? Onli, who was out of breath, quickly got up and grabbed Zheng Shua's collar, pretending to be angry and scolding, while Xiaoqi, who was floating, was also gloating and stirring up trouble. I left overnight and the administrator engaged in such behavior. To be frank, I cannot simulate what the administrator will do in the future, which is a matter of mutual anger between humans and gods. Xiaoqi, actually I already talked to your administrator about it. Only let go of Zheng Shua and shyly wrapped her hands around her chest, whispering to Xiaoqi with a blushing face. And Xiaoqi is also very cooperative, humanized, he shook his body and showed a stunning expression. That really refreshed my understanding of the level of scum in administrators. Hey, hey, hey. Which one is that? Zheng Shua shouted in his heart that he was unjustly accused. Even though it was this bad woman who took the initiative to provoke him, he spoke as if he had a human face and a beast heart. Xiaoqi, you see, he turned his face and didn't recognize anyone. Yeah, the administrator is such a scumbag. Enli and Xiaoqi sang and reconciled, and in the blink of an eye, they portrayed Zheng Shua as a promiscuous chin shimmy. And Zheng Shua was still putting in a lot of effort to prove how loyal he was, and realized that the two of them didn't care about his defense at all, just habitually teasing him. Don't talk to yourself there. So, on the second day of arriving in a different world, the curtain began amidst Zheng Shua's powerless cries. On the path of the dark forest, Zheng Shua and Enli walked in front of each other, while the lime-yellow sunlight shone through the gaps between the green leaves on the ground, presenting faint beams of dust under the Tyndar effect. Watching the scene full of the meaning of apple-smashing Newton, Zheng Shua pondered for a while before pointing to a piece of gravel on the ground with interest and saying, Xiaoqi, this stone is free to fall from a height of 10 meters. Xiaoqi heard the command and was about to take action when he flew onto the gravel when he was interrupted by Enli's voice. No need to verify, the gravitational acceleration is 9.8. Okay, what about the planet's radius? 6,371 kilometers, the galaxy has 8 planets and 1 star. We are the third planet of the star, oh by the way, we also have 1 satellite. It's exactly the same as expected. It's really good to go through a different world with the same physical rules and cosmic structure. No wonder. It's amazing that there is science in the strange world of Mammon, and even the radius of the planet and the galaxy have been explored. This is a direct copy and paste. The creator, you can use dim sum for me. Oh by the way, you told us that the creator is useless. Most of our scientists here are atheists. Maybe you should go to the Lord's land to try your luck. Gone, this is a strange world of Mao. If I could travel back and use technology to create a group of chaotic gods like Beast Mother and Lord's Companion Continent, I wouldn't even have to risk getting lost in the gaps of time and space to travel. Zheng Shua hugged his head and wept bitterly. What elemental magic, teleportation, dragons, and dungeons did he expect for his journey to another world? This technology tree is almost catching up with the Industrial Revolution. No, he has to go find that god, otherwise the only difference between the two worlds is really the Beast Mother. Upon hearing his complaint, Enli turned around and reached out her slender finger to nod his forehead. With a mocking expression on her face, she said, Clam. Do you want to travel to a different world planet with 400 times the gravity? With your weak and feathered body, can you stand up there? 400 times gravity. Supercell people. Zeg Gong. It seems that it's not impossible either, as long as I work hard. Bang. An innocent tree next to the two was punched by Enli. The trunk of the tree, which the three of them could only wrap around, broke into 2 pieces and collapsed backwards with a loud roar. Enli, on the other hand, effortlessly blew his fist, gesturing back and forth at Zheng Shua, and asked him sarcastically. Are you sober now? Wake up, you're really full of energy. Zheng Shua, who was already frightened, quickly became as certain as a chicken pecking at rice that he was looking for any super sire people. The girl in front of him was ready. Made. But perhaps it was Anli's conscience that made a big discovery. After catching a glimpse of Zheng Shua's lifeless appearance, she added with a helpless expression. Perhaps there is another difference. The originally drooping head suddenly lifted up, and Zheng Shua suddenly felt that his otherworldly sheep tail was saved. What is it? What is it? Anli suddenly fell into a deep voice, holding onto Zheng Shua's shoulder with a serious expression and talking to him. Do you have any bloodline in your area? Looking at this inexplicable visual sensation, Zheng Shua's mind suddenly played a strange BGM that prompted him to swallow his saliva. He replied hesitantly, no, I haven't heard of this thing. After hearing Zheng Shua's answer, Anli suddenly pulled him closer and whispered in a faint voice like exchanging confidential information. Bloodline, that is an indescribable mass, wriggling flesh that will assimilate humans killed and torn apart by it. Not only that, but it also devours everything around it, even steel is no exception. It is a disaster for the entire planet, and its goal is to exterminate humanity and even destroy this planet. But its origin is unknown, but there are rumors that it was an evil god who coveted the richness of this land and released an unclean curse on this planet. Zheng Shua looked at Anli's terrifying face and felt relieved. So it's listening to Wang Gang tell a story. Isn't this even more terrifying? I have to go first. As she gazed at Zheng Shua struggling, Anli seemed to be really afraid of being attacked by blood relatives. She nervously looked around and said with a serious expression. What's even more terrifying is that blood descendants have a terrifying rate of evolution. Some can spit out bone spurs, some can evolve corrosive acid, and even some lucky ones can evolve environmental disguises. As soon as they finished speaking, the bushes on top of their heads suddenly shook violently. Zheng Shua's face turned pale in an instant, but Anli's hand was still tightly holding him, making it impossible for him to break free. The swaying of the trees was even more intense than before. Zheng Shua, who witnessed this scene, glared at Anli frantically, while Anli pretended to be innocent and looked at him with an innocent face. Bang! The branch broke, followed by Zheng Shua's screams reaching up to 220 decibels. 9. Identify one popular creatures from the other world. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. With agile eyes, she looked at Zheng Shua lying on the ground, who was about to faint. Anli sarcastically said with a playful expression on her face. Zheng Gongzi, you are so timid. How can you confess to a girl in the future? You won't want the girl to chase you back, will you? Xiaoqi, who fell from the branch, also added in a very timely manner. Is it a failure for a high school student, who has immersed himself in the excellent works of anime for 5,000 years because he is too timid to confess and let other girls chase him back? Zheng Shua, lying on the ground, listened to their sarcasm and silently made an international friendly gesture, but didn't want to be lightly kicked by Anli on his fingers. Your gesture is useless on the master's side. Get up quickly, how long are you planning to lie on the ground? Zheng Shua, who had been hit several times, silently put away his friendly gestures and crawled up like a walking corpse. His face was depressed as if he had joined the 49th National Army, and he muttered some unpleasant names like Majima, Jinjizhen, Kafka, and so on. Watching Zheng Shua almost pass away, Anli felt a bit flustered. Well, it seems that after all the flirting, Zheng Shua is a little disheartened. Oh my, bloodline and so on have disappeared for decades. What are you afraid of? Besides, I'm just joking with you, mainly because we're about to come out of the old forest. As a result, Anli had a pleasurable conversation with Zheng Shua, then pointed to the bushes in front of her. Some cute little ones ran over and lifted the branches with lush leaves blocking the way. They saw sunlight seeping through the gap and hitting the puddle in front of Zheng Shua. Feeling Zheng Shua's expression somewhat relaxed, Anli walked up to him, looked up to reveal her delicate face, and coquettishly said, "Please forgive me." There's no way, who gave her the idea? Besides, even though she said she wanted Zheng Shua to forgive her, her hands had silently touched Zheng Shua's waist, looking like, if you don't forgive me, you'll lose the ability to forgive me. And Zheng Shua's reaction perfectly illustrates what it means. Sorry, being good-looking means being able to do whatever you want. He didn't even notice Onli's poised hands, but instead turned his head shyly and replied, "How could I be angry with Miss Onli? I was scared. I haven't recovered yet." Xiao Qi beside him saw Zheng Shua's immature appearance and gently shook himself, sighing, "The administrator really doesn't have any backbone. Just talk too much." Following that were some obscure and difficult to understand words. "I am Miss Onli's dog. I have loved Miss Onli since I was born," and so on, which made people very suspicious of whether his mental state was normal. After seeing Zheng Shua return to his incoherent demeanor, Onli ignored his crazy words and walked forward quickly, urging him, "Hurry up, I remember there's a river ahead." Zheng Shua, who was still in a daze, didn't hear Onli's urging at all. It wasn't until Xiao Qi drifted out of the dense forest that he realized he was left alone in the empty and quiet forest. He turned around to look at the path that had become dark due to the dense branches, and after a few shivers, he quickly ran forward. "Hey hey hey! Wait for me. Perhaps it's been too long since I've seen the sunshine. Or is this old forest too dark?" When Zheng Shua walked out of the leaf wall constructed from branches, a strong and stimulating light hit his face. He could only cover it with his hands and slowly wait for his eyes to adapt. After a while, he slowly moved his hands away, and the scenery in front of him widened his eyes. A clear and bottomless stream runs across the vast emerald green field, shimmering in the sunlight. The extraterrestrial creatures that can only be seen in entertainment materials are drinking and playing by the creek. At the end of the line of sight lies the towering mountains surrounded by clouds and dangerous peaks. He swung his fist fiercely and then danced excitedly. "Hey, this is the damn world. Pop." Onli, who walked up behind him at an unknown time, gave him a fierce pat on the back of the head and said with a puzzled and disdainful expression, "Are you really crazy? It's been waiting for you for a long time, and I thought you were really eaten by the bloodline." Zheng Shua, who was slapped by Onli and looked a bit like a star in his eyes, also suppressed his joy. He didn't want to be tormented again by the anti-human robot's activation of an emotional relief system due to excessive joy. "Oh, what's the rush? I've already come out. I'm too lazy to talk about you. Go wash your face first, it's almost burnt together." Onli pointed to the stream surrounded by animals from another world, and then gently pushed Zheng Shua. Are you sure that group of things is safe? And where is Xiaoqi?" It said that several unknown signal sources were detected last night, and after investigation, there were only 2 left, one of which happened to be on its way back. Has it told me about this? You told me about it. Zheng Shua gazed affectionately at the innocent Onli, who also looked at him with joy. "It's the taste of NTR. Clam. How did you know about this thing? If someone comes out a little later, maybe Xiaoqi even told me, proud and charming. Hahaha." After a brief silence between the two, Zheng Shua suddenly bowed to Onli and was slapped on the back of the head by Onli. "Old Buddha. You are auspicious. Look at you dead, go wash it up. But that group. That's a pack animal and a horned deer. They are vegetarians, aren't you also afraid? The rabbit is in a hurry and still bites people." Boom. It was the same deep pit as yesterday, and the dust splashed up made their coats gray. I'll go. Zheng Shua hurriedly took 3 steps and ran over in 2. Now that Xiaoqi is not by his side, he dare not bet that Onli will tie him up. Watching Zheng Shua escape, Onli shook her head helplessly, then pulled out her sword box from the pit and slowly walked towards the stream. "Hi, brother Tua, good morning. I'll come wash my face or something, little brother." Looking at the pack animal as big as an elephant in front of him, Zheng Shua awkwardly greeted it. To be honest, this pack animal looks like enlarging the body of a cow, elongating its neck, and then removing its horns. It doesn't seem to be anything special. However, the pack animal on the side had no ability to detect Zheng Shua's offensive thoughts. It snorted and ignored Zheng Shua's greeting, still drinking the river water slowly. Li, who was one step behind, also arrived at the riverbank and observed Zheng Shua's dramatic behavior of greeting pack beasts. She couldn't help but ask, "Are you engaged in any cult behavior?" "Ah. Why are you here?" "I just feel like this child has some shadow of our local creatures. Is this thing really evolved? Isn't such a long neck easy to be hunted by carnivores? I'm afraid you're just being eaten, You're asking me this question. Find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. The huge sword box was gently placed aside, and Anli pondered for a moment before answering. "I don't really understand biological evolution either. You should go to the city and ask that crazy scientist." But how else could this child have come to be? He jumped out of a stone. And I'm even more curious, isn't there any really strange creatures in your area? A certain outsider, who only had some inappropriate things left in his mind, suddenly thought of the fox with a square face, and a hallucination came in his ear. Identify. Then he shook his head suddenly, thinking of some more interesting creatures, and replied. Stranger creatures. Birds that cannot fly. Seriously. It seems like your side is even more outrageous, right? And there are also several types of birds that cannot fly. Penguins, kunkun, ostriches, and so on. The head covered in messy black hair was scratched. At first glance, it seemed like this was indeed the case. Zheng Shua suddenly felt that he didn't understand much about biological evolution. Looking at the pack animal next to me, I suddenly found it much more pleasing to the eye. As for the horned deer with the same horns as the triceratops on its head. It's a natural selection. Isn't it normal for such creatures to exist in another world? After no longer worrying about biological evolution, Zheng Shua stretched lazily and crouched down by the stream. He washed his battered face with some water in his hand, then slowly rinsed his mouth with saliva. Then he boredly looked around and saw a group of big birds flying in the sky. He fixed his eyes and glanced, then forcefully sprayed the water in his mouth. Puff! The penguin has gone up to the sky. A group of penguins with huge wings flew by from a distance, causing him to retract the tolerance he had just developed for extraterrestrial creatures.